Unit 9, Day 3. This is Mr. McGough up in R12, and I'm going to go over our notes for Day 3. First, vocabulary, power of a power. Let's think about a base number like 2 being raised to the power 2 or squared. So that's 2 to the second power. If we take that value and then raise it to a power, let's say we're going to cube that, what we end up doing is multiplying our two powers together. So it's 2 to the 2 times 3, or 2 to the 6th power. So when we have a power to a power, we multiply the exponents. Has to be the same base. Let's look about why that is. Well, 2 squared, if we wrote it out, would be 2 times 2. If we then cubed it, we would take that and multiply it by itself a total of 3 times. So all of these would be multiplied together. So we'd have 2 to the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th power. Power of a product. If I took 2 squared and I multiplied it by 2 to the 3rd, I would get 2 to the 5th. So I would add the exponents together. Same base. So let's think about why that is. If I took 2 squared, 2 times 2, and then I multiplied it times 2 cubed, 2 times 2 times 2, I would have 2 to the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So we add the exponents together. Let's use that for some examples. Well, 2 to the 3rd to the 2nd, or 2 cubed squared, would be 2 to the 3 times 2, or 2 to the 6th. Just like we did when we up above, we would take 2 cubed, 2 times 2 times 2, and then square it. So we would multiply it by itself. 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 to the 6th. Power to a power. Let's just use the rule. We would do y to the 3 times 5x. X is a number. We just haven't been told what it is yet. So that would be y to the 15x. Go ahead and pause your video and try letter A and letter B on your own. Okay. So here we have x to the 4th to the 3rd. We multiply those two exponents together, and we get x to the 12th. Again, if we wrote it out, x to the 4th times x to the 4th times x to the 4th. There's 12 x's. X times itself 12 times. Negative y to the 4th. Well, let's think about PEMDAS when we do this. First, we're going to do the exponent, y to the 4th. And then we're going to multiply it by negative 1. So, leaving this in exponential form, it's just negative y to the 4th. Now, that's different than if we had negative y being raised to the 4th, like we have on example number 3. Let's take a look at example number 3 next. So here we have m to the 7th, negative m to the 7th times n raised to the 8th power. Well, that means we would have negative m to the 7th times n. And then we would multiply it by itself 8 times. I'm not going to write all the m's and n's out. But what's happening with the negative sign here? is every second time it's multiplied by itself, a negative times a negative is positive. The third time it's multiplied, positive times a negative is negative. The fourth time it's multiplied, a negative times a negative is positive. So it keeps flipping back and forth. So if we have an even exponent, a negative times a negative, an even number of times, ends up being positive. So our answer here will be positive. And then power to a power. We multiply our exponents together. 7 times 8 is 56. And then n. Well, what is n? It's really n to the first power, so we multiply those exponents together. The first power times 8 is to the 8th power. On number 4, we have a whole bunch of letters here, but the first thing we're going to work on is our number. Negative 5 squared is, of course, negative 5 times itself. A negative times a negative is positive. 5 times 5 is 25. G to the first to the second, we multiply those exponents together. 1 times 2 is 2. H squared to the second, we multiply those exponents together. 2 times 2 is 4. K to the sixth to the second power, we multiply those together. That's the 12th power. Go ahead and pause your video and try letters C and D on your own. When you restart it, we'll go over the answers together. So, negative 2 to the third power is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. A negative times a negative is a positive. And then I multiply that times negative 2 again, and I get negative 8. So that's the beginning. And then power to a power, h to the third, we multiply those 3's together. So h to the 3 times 3 is h to the 9th. Letter D, a to the third squared, 2 times 3, a to the 6th. B squared squared, 2 times 2 is 4, so it becomes b to the 4th. Number 5, well, we still want to use PEMDAS. Parentheses first, nothing to do inside the parentheses right now. Then we'll look at the exponent. So we're going to take this part first. 3 squared is 9. X to the 5th squared, we multiply the exponents together. X to the 10th. And then we're going to multiply that by 4. 4 times 9 is 36. X to the 10th. On problem number 6, first we're going to do our exponent. So we're going to split this into 2 parts. 3 squared is 9. Y to the 6th squared, 6 times 2, gives us y to the 12th. Second part of the problem. We have a negative. What does that negative really mean? It means negative 1. Negative 1 cubed is negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1, negative times a negative is a positive, so we get positive 1. Times another negative 1 becomes negative 1, or just the negative sign. X to the 5th to the 3rd, we multiply those 2 exponents together, it becomes x to the 15th. Y to the 2nd to the 3rd, we multiply those exponents together, y to the 6th. Z to the 1st to the 3rd, we multiply those exponents together, we get z to the 3rd. Now we're going to multiply these 2 parts together. 9 times negative 1 is negative 9. There's nothing to multiply x times x, so we're just going to leave x the way it is. But we do multiply y to the 12th times y to the 6th. That's power of a product. Our base is y. So here we're going to add the 12th power and the 6th power together. So we'll get y to the 18th. And then we have z cubed. If you want to think about it, there is just a 1 for my x and a 1 for my z. So that's what we're really doing there. Go ahead and try E and F on your own. Okay, hopefully you paused and tried those. So we're going to treat each of these on its own first, and then we'll multiply them together. PEMDAS, we're going to do parentheses, nothing to fix in there yet, and then our exponent, and then multiplication. So we'll do both of these exponents first. So v to the third is v to the 9th. W squared to the third is w to the 6th. That's going to be multiplied times v to the third to the 4th. Multiply those exponents together, it's v to the 12th. W to the first to the 4th is w to the 4th. Now I have multiplication. So I'm going to add the exponents for the same base. So v to the 9th times v to the 12th is v to the 21st, 9 plus 12. W to the 6th times w to the 4th is w to the 6th plus 4, w to the 10th. For letter F, first, 10 squared, 100. A to the 4th to the 2nd. Multiply the exponents together, a to the 8th. B to the 6th to the 2nd. Multiply those exponents together, b to the 12th. Our second set of parentheses with an exponent, a to the 6th to the 7th. 6 times 7 is 42. B to the 3rd to the 7th, 3 times 7 is 21. Now we have a product. This is 1a to the 42nd, b to the 21st. So first we do number times number. 100 times 1 is 100. Next, we're taking a look at our a term. Same base. A to the 8th times a to the 42nd. We're going to add the exponents together. Get a to the 50th. And then our next term with the same base, b to the 12th times b to the 21st. We add those exponents together. We get b to the 33rd. And that's it for day 3.